So this recording will be distributed later to all those who have registered for this webinar. Hello to our guests for our third year of monthly webinars on building electrification. I'm Steve Miller, your host, and tonight is a double hitter. And first, we have a brand new electrification coach in our midst. So she's going to talk all about it, and then I'll introduce her in a sec. But then after my wife ensures that your questions are answered, I have about 10 minutes at the end, assuming there's time, and I'll cover all the tools that properly trained contractors use to bid on an electrification solution for your house. So you'll learn, it's an extension of last month, and so you're going to learn all about where to go to find those tools. So tonight we are really pleased to have Betsy Longendorfer, who's a fellow electrical engineer who spent her career as a software designer, a manager, and director of all planning for the leading building control manufacturer. And Betsy was attracted to the concept of Electrification Coach and graduated with her certificate. So tonight, our Building Electrification webinar takes you through America's electrification story, our nation's bright future, and Betsy tells what she's learned, how she'll apply it to spark your own transition to home electrification. And so we're going to ask you to also become a trained electrification coach if you are interested in doing that. So Betsy, I've just introduced you. Your turn.
Wow, it's going to be hard to live up to that billing. Thank you, Steve. Let's see. Let's start the slideshow. My Zoom pictures are covering my notes. Okay. Anyway, I started out when I first retired a couple of years ago with being a homeowner who thought I should do a lot of these things. And then I found out how hard it was to round up all the information and how much time it took to do the research. So one of the places I came was these seminars. And I found a lot of really great information there. So I was inspired to join that class that Rewiring America had as an electrification coach. What their purpose is that they would like to create a large number of advocates that can help neighbors and friends navigate all of these processes. And I think Steve Miller had told me that about every other day he's advising someone. So there seems to be a crying need for people to help introduce others to the electrification concepts. Anyway, so they're calling these advocates electrification coaches. And my friend Judy Green actually coined the term energy doulas. So I created some materials heavily based on the Rewiring America information that I will use when I'm coaching someone. And some of my materials are the slides you'll see here. And some materials are references to other videos that are available on the web. I've also written a number of articles along with Judy Green, my collaborator, on our Substack site, climatefrindlylifestyle.substack.com. And the idea here is that whenever I coach someone and we speak, and then it's over, people will have some material to go back to and review at their own leisure. That reiterates what we said during the meeting. Anyway, I'd love your feedback on all of these materials so that I can improve them. So one of their concepts was that there are different kinds of electrification coaches at different technical levels. And I see myself here as being a guide, not a mentor or an educator. Those are the nuts and bolts people who have extensive knowledge on how to design heat pump systems. I see myself as being able to explain the concepts and giving people the vocabulary and the ability to evaluate different quotes, and then turning them over to people who can really go through a real system design. So for you contractors out there, I hope that guides like me can do some of the basic education of your clients so that you can spend more valuable time actually bidding the jobs and doing the work instead of answering basic questions. And I have an analogy from my work in engineering. In the 1990s, our company brought out the very first Ethernet-based equipment that we were selling, but we couldn't sell any of it because nobody knew what Ethernet was, how to wire it, how to set up the software. It turns out we had to do a lot of education about Ethernet, even though that wasn't really our concept, before we could sell anything. So I think this is a very similar case where people have to be educated first, and then they can go on to actually purchase things. One of the ways that Rewiring America, Rewiring America detailed 3 different ways that different companies have found to reach out to people. One of them was to create a local spark to jumpstart a community to get a critical mass of change. Abode Energy Management, which is an energy advocate and also installation company, figured out that they should choose Acton, Massachusetts as a venue because they had a sustainability coordinator. So they said, well, at least there's some local advocate we could work with. Then they identified part of the community that had heat pumps that would be likely to want heat pumps because they had high utility costs. They had fuel oil and other old systems, and they didn't have any possibility of connecting to the local gas system. So what they did is they went door to door. They got interest forms submitted. They promised everyone that they would hold a fair, a contractor's day, where everyone who attended would get 3 quotes from different installers, and then an opportunity to review them with a coach. And then they proceeded with installations. So that was a way to get a large number of neighbors going all at the same time. Another way that another type of coaching that has been successful is an individual who runs an electric heating and cooling company in Ithaca, New York. He will only do jobs where he converts people to all electric homes, and other than that, he refers all of his other jobs that he gets to local contractors. So he makes a lot of friends with the local contractors, but he also uses that opportunity to coach them and teach them the heat pump business. So he had some business advice for people who are trying to follow in his footsteps. You know, target people who have propane systems or oil. That is likely to be places where there is a definite financial savings. And he said also involve the local contractors and educate them and help them get clients, and that will create a critical mass. He said some of the problems that he's seen as a contractor is that many small businesses like plumbers and electricians are a little bit overwhelmed with some of the paperwork to apply for the rebates that are available. So any help that could be given that way would help the business, would help the adoption of heat pumps. And he also said getting rebates in a timely fashion is a little bit of a problem because it's, for small businesses, cash flow is a real issue. So then there was one other type of coaching that they detailed, and this is a woman who goes to community events, for example, libraries, farmers markets, PTAs, and she gives a talk that she calls How to Access Government Incentives for Green Home Improvement. So she wants to hit the financial end, she wants to hit the green desire. And she says what she does is she emphasizes your home's resale value, she emphasizes comfort and safety. And in doing so, she also talks to real estate agents because she's trying to convince them that these homes are more valuable, therefore people will want to put in systems like this. She says that her 2 most effective phrases are that 42% of your emissions are under your own control. And that gives people a feeling that they can really do something to help with greenhouse gas emissions. And she said the other one is an emotional appeal, to stop burning all those little fires in your house and improve your indoor air quality. So those are the ways she gets people to look at and consider electrification. So my question here is, how can we jumpstart New Jersey? We'll probably need a list of qualified and enthusiastic contractors. And then we'll probably need a way to provide online coaching to make it available to people who want it. There is a model that Third Act uses that I can talk over with probably the Building Electrification Committee. You've made a great start with making these monthly seminars available. And maybe we can commit to attending local town fairs or other things to publicize that we have a coaching service available. Or possibly we could contact towns that are already doing some actions through Sustainable New Jersey. They might be someone who would be receptive to having people create a critical mass of their residents. So that this was the part of the talk where I just wanted to talk about coaching. The next part of the talk is the materials that I've developed that I think I would use to coach people. So let me stop this slideshow and start this one. Okay. All right. So this is the beginning of the presentation. I have to tell a story that when I was an engineering manager, people used to ask me, what exactly do you do? And I used to give my standard answer that I was an English to English translator. In other words, I translate from one set of dialect, technical dialect, to a dialect that people could understand from their background. And Rewiring America emphasizes that any coach should be able to carefully ascertain what people are interested in, not just have a standard presentation, but to see what they would like to hear about, and start there with them, and also to understand what their background is, so you know how to phrase things properly. Don't make them either overly technical or underly technical. Anyway, so I have a large number of slides here. Don't worry, I will jump around as necessary. And but I did want to have something that I could use no matter what where people wanted to start. I annotated here a few good places that are that have great information if anybody wants to start on their own. So they asked, Rewiring America asked everybody to make a pitch. Who are you, and why are you doing this? What's the catch? So I wrote this, which basically says I'm a homeowner. I'm either in the process of doing most of this myself, or I have done most of this myself. So I know not just the what's been written, but actually how to go through a lot of this. And then I can help you understand a lot of it, but you will have to select the contractors yourself on specific projects. Okay. And then, my skills, I am an electrical engineer. I retired, and I think that I wanted to put my skills to work on something that was important, and what's more important than the climate crisis. So I think this will tell people that I'm not trying to sell them something. I really just want to help people do the right thing. I do write a Substack newsletter series called climatefriendlylifestyle.substack.com. And Judy Green and I started this because as we were making our way through many of the actions that we'd like to do, we had to do a lot of research, and we wanted to write it down so that people don't have to do all the research themselves. So most of the topics I'll talk about, we do have articles on our Substack site that expand on whatever I'm going to say here. So let's get started. Or as actors would say, what's my motivation? Why are you doing this now? Because of the Inflation Reduction Act, we have a real alignment of financial savings that are available, along with some real innovations in things like heat pumps, so that you have a great opportunity to improve the comfort of your house and also the safety of your house, as well as doing good by helping to decarbonize our world. And why should you make a plan now if nothing's wrong with your house? Well, you never really know what's going to happen. Because some of these technologies are newer and not all contractors are familiar with them, you may need to do your research up front, ask all your questions now, so that in case your furnace breaks or your water heater breaks down or you have to buy a new car, you'll know what your plan is. All right, so what should be on your plan? Any of these things might be there, and I have slides in each of these categories. Weatherizing and insulating your home so that you're more efficient. Looking at heating and cooling systems, looking at hot water heaters, as well as energy storage and generation, including solar panels. Cooking, as in induction cooktops. Energy star appliances. Transportation like EVs, and even your lawn and garden with electric lawn tools. So just to cut to the chase, where everybody wants to show me the money. This is the best site that you can go to. This is Rewiring America's IRA calculator site. You can see that right here. You can go here and they will look up all the federal incentives. You'll notice that they're asking you, what's your household income? What zip code do you live in? The reason they're asking that is because some of the incentives have to do with whether you're low to moderate income household. They also ask you if you're a renter or if you're a homeowner, so that they can sort out the incentives for you properly. So you might want to start here. You should also notice they have a new tool called Make a Plan, where you can put in more information and get something that's more customized than it is in the general case. So just continuing there on the IRA calculator, here's a summary of a lot of the federal rebates for rebates. Depending on when you're installing them, you could get rebates. And then there's also tax credits that after you install something, you can then claim on your tax form some savings. This is a little bit of the planning tool from Rewiring America. Now, one of the nice things they do here is they summarize for all the different things that you might want to do, how important and how costly are all of these different types of upgrades that you could do. How long does the equipment last? What are we talking about in terms of upfront costs before rebates? What can you expect in terms of the magnitude of operating savings? And which of these are harder that really require a professional? And how much of an effect does it have on your home emissions? And which of these are available to renters as well? So you might just want to look that over to see the kinds of things that you might be interested in doing. And then kudos to the Steve and Pat Miller here. They've put together a couple of pages of documents here that not only include the federal rebates that Rewiring America has, but they're attempting to list in one place New Jersey state rebates and tax credits, as well as many that are available from individual utilities. So there's 3 different places you can look: the utilities, the state, and the federal. You can see, for example, they've listed here JCP&L and PSE&G. I happen to have Orange and Rockland for electricity. But yeah, if you have any other additional information, you can help them keep this up to date, and you can contact Steve to get a copy of this document. And here's the second page of the document. Another place that you could look is the Energy Star rebate finder. Again, you put in your zip code, and it will find rebates that are available, both federal and local utilities. So I put in my zip code just to see what would happen. And there were 66 different rebates that were found. I could select by all kinds of different categories, and it will tell you what's available for you. So that's another good place to look. So after you think about your plan, most likely you want to get an energy audit done. This is really important if you're going to do any heating or cooling work. I've had a number of people who do energy audits say, you know, we thought we as professionals could tell you, but just by looking at the house, where the problem is, and we've been wrong so many times. So you want to find out where your actual problems are. One way to do that is with what they call the manual J calculation, and I bet you that's one of the things that Steve Miller is going to show you later today. What that does is just look at some math. How many windows do you have? What are they made out of? What are your walls made out of? How much surface area do you have? Are they above ground? And all these things that would determine mathematically where your losses are likely to be. But of course, then there's also the practical reality, and they can do what they call a blower door test, where they create air pressure with fans, and they see where the air actually leaks. Does it leak out, through your dryer vent? Is it coming in through plumbing? Is it going out through weather stripping, or maybe you have loose, or maybe you have windows that don't fit well? So both of these things are important, both the math and the actual test. So like I said, it depends on many, many different possibilities here. And here's just a picture of all the different kinds of places that they look to see where you might be losing heat. They can also quantify a little bit about which are the most severe, and then you can look at which cost the most or the least to fix, which will save you the most and least if you fix them. And who performs energy audits? Well, your utility does, often for free. There are also installation contractors that will do it for a nominal fee. You should look for a certification by either BPI, the Building Performance Institute, or ResNet. And then you have to look at the different results and determine what actions you're going to take. Are you doing this because of financial savings? Are you doing this because of comfort, to reduce draftiness, or safety reasons, avoidance of carbon monoxide, or reducing particulates from gas cooking that cause asthma? So think about all of those things. So the bid that you get should have actions spelled out in pretty good level of detail. And the contractor should know about different financial incentives and apply, and mostly they will apply for you for the rebates anyway. And did they actually perform those calculations and the blower door test? And then they must state their plan for how they're going to find and seal all of the air leaks before they do other insulation. So I had 3 different contractors come in and give me give me reports. And I thought it was very interesting. All three of them were very good, but they were quite different. So just having a couple of different people give me reports was very interesting. They emphasized totally different things. So for example, I had one contractor come in and they did an extremely thorough report, but they couldn't answer questions that I asked about the details. Maybe that was just their representative that was trying to interpret the report to me. But I have one glaring problem, which is a sunroom that is really a 3-season sunroom, and there's no door or window between that and the rest of the house. And that's by far the worst problem. And they didn't even mention it. And so when I asked them about what I could possibly do, it didn't fit into their standard pitch, so they continued to ignore it. So contractor 2 came in, took one look at the house and said, "You have a terrible sunroom problem." And he told me what I could do about it, even though he wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to make a penny about it. He didn't really give me a written report, but just in walking through the home, he picked out many things. And I knew what to look for because of the first contractor. So I really thought he knew what he was doing. We asked about alternatives for insulating the home, and he wouldn't consider different alternatives. He just said, "I'm doing it this way." So we looked for a third contractor who was also very experienced. He walked through the house, he wrote everything down. I got a very detailed report. He went through, he answered some questions with multiple phone calls, and I got a very detailed written bid. So on Monday, he's going to be insulating my house. We'll see how that goes. Okay, now I'm going to switch subjects a little bit. You want to do this energy audit and you want to do your installation before you talk about heating and cooling, because you may very well change how much heating or cooling you need to do. So just to start with the real basics, what is a heat pump? So you probably have one in your house now. It's your refrigerator. And what the refrigerator does is it moves heat from the inside to the outside air. And then heat pumps have the ability, the heat pumps that you use in your house have the ability to go either direction. So they can remove heat from the inside and put it outdoors for cooling your home, or they can do the reverse for heating your home. And they've been used in Europe for many years. They're newer here in the US, but they have been around for a while. There was actually a very nice New York Times Wirecutter article today about heat pumps. That would be a great place to start also. And there's some wonderful YouTube videos on Electrify Now USA. So why would you use a heat pump? They're safer. You're not burning fuel inside your home. And so therefore you won't, and you don't have gas, so you won't have gas leaks. There's no carbon monoxide because you're not burning fuel, and you're not using hot flue pipes that can have exhaust problems. One of the reasons that heat pumps are comfortable is because they also dehumidify the air in the vicinity of the heat pump. They're meant to operate constantly and at a very low level, and so they maintain a more even temperature than the on and off of a typical gas boiler. And because they're electric, they're cleaner and less polluting than burning fuel inside your home. And the electricity is as clean as your grid is. As your electric grid gets cleaner, so too is the electricity that you're using to heat or cool your home. Now, sometimes the operating cost for a heat pump is less expensive. than a gas boiler, and sometimes it's not. It really depends on the relative cost of gas and electricity in your area. And note that this is not electric resistance heating like you may have been familiar with from years ago. You are not heating up something like a toaster. You are merely transferring heat, which is a lot more efficient. So electric resistance heating has a coefficient of performance or an efficiency of about 1 or 100%. Gas heating is about 60 to 95% efficient, but heat pumps are 2.5 to 4.5 times as efficient, so that they have a they have an efficiency of 250 to 450%. You can also get window air conditioners that are heat pumps, and they're less expensive to operate. And you may ask, well, how can a heat pump, how can anything be more than 100% efficient? The reason is because the heat pump is merely using energy to transfer heat. It's not creating the heat, and it takes much less energy to transfer it than to create it. You can see this diagram here. The top graph here shows that when you have a gas boiler, you have 1 unit of fuel that's coming in. It burns the fuel, which is not 100% efficient, and then you have to distribute it, and that's not 100% efficient either. When you have something like a toaster, which is an electric resistance device, you put in a unit of electricity and you get out a unit of electricity. So that's approximately 100% efficient. When you have a heat pump, you put in a unit of electricity, which steals energy from the surrounding air and uses the electricity only to transfer the heat. And so you get more units of heat or cooling than you put in because of the energy that's being stolen from the air. The one thing you do have to worry about, though, is that efficiency of a heat pump changes with the outdoor temperature. So as it gets colder and colder, the efficiency goes down and down. And that's a big factor in choosing which heat pump you're going to use and how to size it, which we'll see later. And as a homeowner, how would your experience be different living with a heat pump than with a furnace? So I was trying to think of an analogy, and I was thinking about 2 people who are going to walk or run a mile. One of them just starts walking at a constant pace and walks a mile. The other one sprints like crazy for 100 yards and then stops and waits for the other person to catch up with them, and then does the same thing. They both cover the same amount of ground, but the running and stopping uses more energy, causes more fatigue. The person who's walking at a constant pace, at a constant slower pace, is more efficient. That's a way of thinking about how heat pumps work as opposed to furnaces. So heat pumps, you should know that heat pumps are inefficient when they must work at top capacity, or when the outdoor temperature starts to drop below what their designed working temperature is. And so one of the things with a heat pump is that you don't raise and lower your thermostat. You maintain a constant temperature. And it's also important to make sure that your heating capacity matches your home fairly well. If you over or undersize the capacity, you're going to create this on-off condition that pushes the heat pump to work in an inefficient range of operation. And that's why that's why it's important to get your energy audit and all of your insulation weather stripping done first, because it may greatly change the amount of heating capacity that you need. And therefore, it would influence your choice of the capacity of the heat pump. Okay. So there are a few steps in choosing a heat pump, and your contractor would go over this with you. You have to take into account what climate zone you're in and what the design temperatures are. So I think you guys are in Central Jersey, which is probably zone 4, and I'm in very northern New Jersey, which is probably zone 5. That determines what the coldest design temperature is. It determines what the highest design temperature is as well, and how many days would be spent in each of those zones. I think in zone 5, you have to start seriously considering a cold climate heat pump. So cold climate heat pumps may have another ancillary heating unit that turns on when the heat pump itself can't keep up with the amount of heat that's required. And that may require a 60 amp service, electric service. And there are also cold climate heat pumps that are designed a bit differently. Some of them have much larger outdoor units so that they can process more air to extract heat. They may have ice reduction hardware, and they may be tuned differently so that they perform better at lower temperatures, but they don't perform as well at higher temperatures. Okay. Let's see. I don't really want to go through this table because I'm trying to judge my audience here. But this would be a manual Jake computation where the contractor would look at all of the different parts of your home and figure out how much to compensate for all of the different parts of your home. And they would compute a heating load and a cooling load. So in step 3, this requires an experienced contractor. The contractor would decide what kind of system to set up. How many zones do you need within your home? How many would it be a system that has a single installed condensing unit outside, and then different air handlers inside and emitters inside? Or would it be maybe a couple of different mini splits that can individually operate for certain rooms? And they're going to take into account lots of different things, between how large the areas are, how important it is to have precise control, how hard it is to do the installations, and the ductwork. So there are homes that have difficulties, mine being one of them, where I have radiators and baseboards with that circulate hot water. So called this is called a hydronic type of home, and it would be incredibly expensive to replace this type of a system and or create ductwork. So, although I do have a heat pump in my sunroom, which works very nicely, but can't do it for the rest of my home. I'm going to skip this slide because this is a little bit too detailed for today's presentation, but it was just showing a way of looking at the description, the technical description of a heat pump, and figuring out whether it could do the job for your home. I do want to talk about this one. Just sort of bear with me for a minute. I'll explain it in English. This blue line represents the heating of your home. Here's the temperature. So at 70 degrees, your home doesn't need any heat. This is the amount of heat. But as it gets colder and colder and colder and colder, you need more and more and more and more and more heat. of course, if you had insulated your home, maybe this line would go more like this, and you wouldn't need as much heat. These other three lines represent what a heat pump, what different models of heat pumps can do. So for example, there's a heat pump that performs pretty well, at a higher temperature, but as the temperature sinks down to 5 degrees, it is less and less and less efficient. And in fact, once you get past about 25 degrees or so, it can't even heat your home. So this would not be an appropriate heat pump for your home. There are two other models here. One, as you can see, is pretty constant no matter what temperature it is. And one does degrade a little with temperature, but it still has enough capacity to perform well for your home. So this is one of the things that the contractor would be looking at in choosing a model. So this was taken from the Rewiring America presentation, where they're looking at Massachusetts for a typical home, which uses 60 million BTUs per year. And they put in the price in northeastern Massachusetts for a unit of fuel: propane, natural gas, home heating oil, electric resistance heating, air source heat pumps, and ground source heat pumps, and what the efficiency of each of these are, as well as how many, as well as the efficiency. And then what would it take to operate this home in Massachusetts? And you can see that in this case, natural gas is actually cheaper to operate the home than an air source heat pump. But it's different depending on where you are. In New Jersey, I looked at my costs, had a little bit of a hard time figuring out what the cost of electricity is, since I have solar panels and my bill just says 0 across the board all the time. They don't even tell me what the price of a kilowatt hour is. So I did, however, have to pay in January because there were so many cloudy days. So I think it's pretty close to 19 cents a kilowatt hour. And that would mean that, according to this chart, I would be paying about $1,200 for electricity for the unit. And my gas price seems to be 92 cents per therm. So my gas price would be $613. But again, depending on who your utility is, what your different prices are, heat pumps may be cheaper to operate, or they might not be. However, the other advantages, such as comfort and safety, and the lack of emissions, might be things that are important enough, even without an absolute cost advantage. And so then there's also the installation cost. And here's a page from Rewiring America that is showing typical heat pump costs and what the different tax credits are for heat pumps and for weatherization. One thing I should mention is that electric panel upgrades are pretty much always needed unless you already have 200 amp service. You should, one of the big reasons for making a plan at the very beginning is for you to look at all the different things that might require you to upgrade your electric panel and do it one time. So if you're putting in an EV charger, if you're putting in a heat pump, or if you're going to put in solar panels, all of these things might require you to do work on your electric panel, and you should do that all at the same time. Right. Whoops, there we go. Right, I was going to change subjects again. Let's see, how am I doing on time? I have about 12 slides left. Is that okay? Okay, all right. All right. So hot water heaters are another topic. They do make heat pump hot water heaters. Right here, we're looking at the three most common types of fossil fuel hot water heaters. The first one here is probably the most common one for everyone, the standalone storage tank. There's also a much more efficient one called a condensing storage tank. And then there's an on-demand water heater. The standalone one, I know that Rewiring America's course emphasized that this is the one that has the most carbon monoxide issues, simply because of sharing a chimney often with the furnace and relying on just normal atmospheric venting. It also has a storage tank, and you're storing hot water and keeping it hot even if you're not using it. The condensing storage tank has a second heat exchanger in it, and it extracts some waste heat, so it's more efficient. But it is also a storage tank. And then the on-demand water heater, if you are not using, if you're the number of occupants in your house and the tasks that you are doing at the same time that require hot water are reasonable, you can have an on-demand water heater that heats water only exactly as you need it. And I actually have this in my house, and it works fairly well. And I'm not paying to heat water when I don't need it. Okay, heat pump water heaters. This is what one of them looks like. Like other heat pumps, it dehumidifies the air around it, and it cools the air. So now this can be a positive or negative. If it's cooling the air and you need to heat that space, you may need to heat it a little bit more. If you have a basement and your water heater is in the basement and you'd like to dehumidify the basement, well, this will be great. This will help you do it. Anyway, this is the electric resistant. This is the electric heater that's an auxiliary for it. Okay. All right. These are just different ways that you can install a heat pump water heater. In some cases, you can, as long as you have, I think, 750 square feet of space, you don't need to vent it. But if you have less than that, you do need to make sure that it's vented somewhere else. And they're just now coming across with 110 volt heat pump water heaters that you can plug into a regular outlet. They're generally available in the southern part of the US, but I know Rewiring America thinks that they'll be available in other parts of the US soon. Here's a way of comparing water heater costs. This is a tool that you can use from efficiencymain.com. It helps you compare heating costs. You put in your cost per kilowatt hour. I had put in 10 cents at the time. I think it's closer to 19 cents. And I put in 92 cents for gas, and it gives you the cost per year, which is dependent on how many gallons a day you use, and it's dependent on how much you have to raise the temperature of the water from the inlet temperature up to the water that is circulated as hot water. You could see there are ratings for hot water heaters called UEFs, Uniform Energy Factors. It's pretty much the same thing as the coefficient of performance. So 2.2 to 3.5 is something like 220% to 350% efficient. This is a little too hard to read, but the point here is that the energy guide stickers that have to be on every water heater make a number of assumptions, and it's very hard to compare electric to gas water heaters just by this energy guide sticker. What you can't see is the second to last line here says we're assuming that the electric cost is 12 cents per kilowatt hour, and this one says it's $1.09 per therm of gas, and the last line says how many kilowatt hours or therms that it uses. So this was put in larger type. In order to do the real comparison, you have to convert to BTUs. So this is a regular standard storage tank electric heater that uses about 12 million BTUs in a year. This is a heat pump water heater. It uses 3.2, so about a quarter of the BTUs. And this is a gas water heater that uses 23, almost 24 million BTUs, about twice what the electric water heater does. Gas versus electric doesn't compare well on the stickers, so don't look at the stickers so much. Look at look at how much energy it's actually using and what the cost of that energy is. Okay, and then installation cost. One of the points here was that heat pump water heaters have almost as much impact on your energy savings and emissions as heating and cooling do, and they're cheaper to implement. So it's actually a really good place to start if you want to, if one of your primary targets is to reduce the emissions on your home. Also, the tax credits are renew every year. So if you plan properly for how you're going to upgrade your home, you can apply for different heat pump types systems in your home each year. For example, a heating cooling system, a heat pump water heater the next year, and then an additional wall unit heat pump in a third year. Another good reason why you should have a plan. All right, now I'm going to just quickly skim over a number of different topics. Induction cooking. I heard somebody say, I think it was in one of these seminars, that induction cooking is the gateway drug for electrification. It's something that people can try. I strongly recommend getting a portable unit. I bought one myself for $80 just to see whether I liked induction cooking or not, and I really do. And then in fact, I just am cooking on my portable unit. I haven't upgraded my stove, and I haven't hardly used my stove in a year and a half. So you just have to get used to how fast it is. It's quite a good experience. It's quick, it's very controllable, it's very even heating. And that's why a lot of professional chefs like induction ranges. It's also safe. You can touch the unit while it's cooking. The top may get a little bit hot from the heat from the pan, but it doesn't have a flame that can create burns, especially around children. You're not worried about gas leaks. You You're not creating the particulate matter that's a problem for people with asthma. And you're not producing some of the nitrous oxide gases, whose levels may even exceed those that the EPA forbids outdoors. I think this is a lot like when microwaves were introduced. I don't know how many of you were old enough to remember before microwaves, but everybody was a little bit afraid of them at the beginning. Oh, radiation is a problem. I'm never going to get one of these. I don't need it. I'm just going to keep heating things up on pans on the stove. And within a few years, the convenience and the features convinced people that that was the way to go. So I think induction cooking is the same way. Once people try it and get used to it, there's no real going back. And remember that there are a lot of other electric appliances that people use to cook these days as well, so that the use of your stove is not nearly as much as it used to be. You know, things like between the microwaves, the air fryers, the rice cookers, the toaster ovens, the coffee makers, we're doing a lot with cooking electrically. Just again, skipping around solar panels. This is pretty much a subject of itself, so can't really cover it here. But I did want people to know, a lot of people haven't heard of community solar. So there's really two ways to use solar power. One of them is to put solar panels in your house. The other way is to become part of a community solar development. There are articles. There's an article on my Substack site that talks about community solar, but basically someone with a large roof area has installed solar, and you lease the panels, and you get the benefit of the electricity that's produced by them. So you're not worried about the mechanics of everything, but you get the price reduction that's there. The kicker, though, is that the community solar development has to be, quote, near you in order to be part of the New Jersey sanctioned community solar. I think you don't have any trouble in central New Jersey, but there are no community solar projects in my county. So in my county, we cannot have it, but it's definitely worth looking into if you do have community solar in your area. I do want to say that, you know, since we put on 10 solar panels, which is a fairly small amount, and the first time I paid for electricity in 19 months was in January, when there were so many cloudy days were there. But you know, it's been and it's once you put them on your home with a good roof, it's a pretty easy experience. Just to again jump around a little bit more, appliances, refrigeration is 18 to 20% of your energy budget, so make sure you have Energy Star appliances. Also, if your clothes dryer is getting near end of life, you might want to look at a heat pump dryer. They don't require ventilation. They're gentler on clothes and a little bit more efficient. And you know, the basics: replace all your incandescent light bulbs with LEDs. One of the websites has come up with an alternative to upgrading your electric panel, and he calls it the Watt Diet Calculator. I believe Sean, I think Armstrong was here on your program, and that's one of his creations. And he points out that, well, rather than having an individual electric circuit for every different appliance, perhaps there are some that you could share that aren't needed at the same time. One example he uses is charging your electric vehicle and running your clothes dryer, so that if you plug it, if you have a switch box and plug those both in, one of them has priority, in that case the clothes dryer. Whenever the clothes dryer runs, your vehicle will not be charged for that, it will not be charging during that time when the dryer is running, but it shares a circuit. He also had an incredibly detailed brochure, I think it was 90 pages, where he researched all kinds of electric retrofits for single family homes. That's really worth looking at. It's very detailed and has very specific model recommendations. That would be a great thing to look at. And of course, you know, when you get to the part where you're ready to think about this, you do have to find and hire contractors. Rewiring America is working on identifying contractors, but they're not ready now. There are also different websites that I think have been advertised and mentioned here in these seminars. Electrify Now, Facebook site. There's an HVAC 2.0 company. And the other way to do it is to contact your utility to see if they recommend contractors, or if the manufacturer of some of the products, for example, Mitsubishi, who makes heat pumps, may have a list of contractors who they will certify as capable of working on their products. Ideally, they should be BPI certified, which means that they will follow certain design principles. And then you can always check for local reviews on Google or an Angie, and ask for local references. I know one of the gentlemen here who's a contractor had mentioned that many of his competitors have been bought up and merged into large entities, and they're much more focused on sales dollars than maintaining long-term relationships. So he's suggesting you make sure that you ascertain that your contractor is really willing to work with you and is not just interested in closing a quick sale. Again, skipping around a little bit, EVs, that's another entire subject of itself, which we don't have time to delve into. This is another one where you want to be careful about upgrading your electric panel and doing it once. So considering this anytime you do electric work. And there's different kinds of EVs, and even personal transportation like e-bikes and e-scooters that might suffice for some of your errands. So we do have different articles that were guest written on our Substack site, that one by a car guy and one by a financial expert, who talk about EVs and what to look for. And this is again from Rewiring America. The federal rebates and tax credits are available for EVs and for installing chargers. And last but not least, lawn and garden. One of the most effective things in reducing the emissions of your home is to get rid of all of your two-cycle engines, like your lawnmower, leaf blower, and trimmer. I was surprised at how incredibly dirty they are. The gas models are. 1 hour of operation is about the equivalent of driving 1,500 miles in a car. So that's something you can do for a fairly low price, and it's a lot of bang for the buck. So that's kind of the summary of where I would start with people. Love to know, what you think could be improved, what's missing, and I'd love to find out how we get an audience interested in even talking about electrifying their home. So thank you.
Thank you, Betsy.
Okay.
we're running a little late, so I was going to ask Steve what he wants to do, whether he wants to go to questions now or go through his slides.
I will defer my slides to another day. I think we should do the questions for Betsy.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, we usually try to be done by 8:15, and it's 8:09 right now. So there are just a few questions, so we'll go through those. Eric asked, does the blower test rely solely on thermal sensing? And if so, does it work when the inside and outside temperatures are the same or similar?
They actually advise that the outside and inside temperatures be different by at least 10 degrees, but it supposedly it works. They measure air movement, but I have seen recommendations that you should do it when the outside temperature is 10 degrees different.
Okay. And Eric also asked, there was a concern at one point that sealing all the air leaks would contribute to poor indoor air quality.
Right,
What is
no,
the
that's
current thing? I just want to answer that if you're burning gas inside your house, it doesn't matter whether it leaks or not. It's going to be poor air quality. But Betsy, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually we asked that question also because I think it's important. They said that they recommend air changes per hour. So I think it's ACH is the abbreviation. They recommend something like 0.3 air changes per hour is a very well sealed house. So there will be leaks. There will be leaks in places, but yeah, they should be able to tell from the blower door test approximately what the air changes per hour would be. So.
And all these questions, either Steve or Betsy can answer, whoever has an answer. So Karen says, so you shouldn't lower the temperature at night with heat pumps, question mark. As someone who needs it cold to sleep, is this not a good option for me? I would want you to still buy the heat pump and use the heat pump instead of gas or oil. But maybe you can come to a compromise temperature. It does take a lot of energy to change temperature quickly in the morning or in the evening. Anybody else have an answer to that?
Are we talking about 2 or 3 degrees, or are we talking about more than that?
That's a good question. Karen, can you unmute and answer that?
Yes. Yeah, I'm older woman. I like at least 10 degrees different at night. So I do sleep with the window open and the fan on and the temperature lowered to 60.
My husband does too, by the way. I'm sitting here and it's 62 degrees right now. So, yeah, I mean, I think that would be a bit of a problem for you would be operating the heat pump in an inefficient way. And yeah.
So if I got used to lowering a lower temperature during the day, which I could do, I could put more stuff on during the day, as long as I could sleep comfortably at night.
Well, that sounds like a great idea because then you use less energy all around by doing that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I think this is where, since I'm a guide and not one of the more highly specialized people, this would be a great question for someone with more expertise than I have.
Yeah.
Thank you anyway.
Jack asks, can existing air conditioning ductwork be used with a heat pump? He has radiators and baseboard. So I'm sure it depends on the size of the ductwork, and it's probably going to take a professional opinion on that, but Betsy, do you have? Betsy
I
or
know
Steve?
I know they did discuss this in the Rewiring America class. I'm trying to remember. I think they were saying that AC ductwork can be pretty leaky, and so they would want to at least take a real good look at it. So, Steve, do you?
You know, I also added my 2 bits. The AC ducts may be okay. They may be sized big enough, but you need to have a contractor actually assess the capability of the ducts. But the bigger problem is whether you can get a heat pump suitable for your hydronic system. It's not possible with high temperature water steam radiators. But if it's a lower temperature system, hydronic, then it's okay.
Well, the next question is related to that. I think there are air to water heat pumps
There are.
that can be used with a hydronic system. What are the pros and cons besides no cooling?
So and you're right, there are air to water heat pumps. And I put in a link to a draft article I have on my climate friendly lifestyle, and I do talk about air to water heat pumps in that article. So one of the issues is that I think they use a lower temperature water, and therefore they need a different radiator. Because this was the issue that I was trying to deal with. They need a different radiator type, because with lower temperature water, you're not going to be transferring as much heat, and you need a different design of the radiator. And they make them, but you probably would be you might be replacing the radiators. Let me look up the link to the article that I wrote, and where I had more information from Rewiring America. I'll paste it in the chat.
Okay. It is 8:16 now, so we'll go on with the Q&A, but anyone who needs to leave, of course, that's fine. Alejandro just has a comment that you can get 110 volt heat pumps at Lowe's now.
Oh, really?
And that means that you can plug them into a regular outlet, and you don't have to do any electrical work for that particular model. And we have a couple of comments about community solar, which is just that. They're not limited to the same zip code now. They should be available, or available soon, anytime the community solar field is served by the same utility that your home is. Judy's asking what companies make reliable cold climate heat pumps, and I think there's a huge list. Steve, do you want to comment?
I put in, we've been talking about Mitsubishi's being the most reliable, and that's from several sources. So I would put that in the top list. But the other two that I've heard many times now are Fujitsu and Daikin. So those are my top three choices. You can find that in my website as well. There were a couple of questions regarding other things. Lower door tests, what if the temperatures inside and outside are identical?
Oh, we talked about that.
Oh, you did?
We
Okay.
answered that. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, I was just looking. There's a comment about EV charging. It says Wallbox/Coil, COIL, has a partnership between charger manufacturer and electrical installation. Very responsive, but can't deal with the other parts of rewiring. Okay, yeah, rewiring, that there are a lot of ways to address it. But many problems just have to be solved by additional rewiring work. And Nick's talking about two-cycle engines for lawn equipment are the ones where you mix gas and oil together in the fuel tank. Most lawn mowers are 4-cycle. Oh, and Steve already answered the question about the manufacturers. Is there funding to remove underground oil tanks that are decommissioned? I haven't heard about that. Does anyone have any up-to-date information about that? It's not one of the standard IRA things. Oh, do you know when the IRA incentives will become available in New Jersey? And Mike has answered that question. BPU has said they should be available the beginning of 2025. They're being timed with the second round of the utility energy efficiency program. They call it the second triennium. So they're going to be meshing the state-sponsored rebates with the IRA rebates, and they're designing new programs that will include both of those together.
So there was one that says, can a heat pump be controlled by a programmable thermostat? And I think the answer is yes. It's just, and what is the process to get through Rewiring America? Training is just go to their website and ask for it. There's I don't have the exact link right now.
Steve,
I
do you
have
have that link?
one more update on that, by the way. If you have a pretty late model furnace and air handler, if you go to a dealer that handles the same model or same make, you probably can get a heat pump that matches. And the only thing you need to replace is the heat pump. Then you can reuse your thermostat. Like I reused my Nest. I reused all the wiring and had a completely new system, but just $5,000 for a new air conditioner, which is a heat pump. And that's the cheapest way to go if you can do it.
Also, there's an addendum to the rebates are the rebates through the state programs are not available until 1/1/25, but the federal tax credits from the IRA are available now. And the existing state programs for rebates are still in effect, and I believe they will remain in effect for the rest of this year. So that some of the rebates are pretty generous. So consider that.
Oh, I have one comment for rebates. I've taken a very cursory look at the filings for next year, and I think the rebates are going to be pretty impressive. So there's some reason if you don't have an urgency to think about next year's IRA rebates. I'll try to post it whenever I find what the utilities are proposing for 2025. That'll be part of my summary.
Okay, I am at the end of the comments. I hope I didn't miss too many in the middle as I was going through them.
So, somebody asked, how thorough are utility versus private contractor energy audits? I didn't have a utility one. Like I said, the private contractor ones, were gave you my experience. Has anybody had a utility?
Yeah, Steve had both.
The quick energy audit really doesn't give you much. So I don't if you like gizmos like electrical strip or some LED lights or that's little gaskets, that's what you can do, but you don't get much back. What you really do need to do is go out and get a real energy audit from the utilities. Will have a long list of professionals that supply them, and you should do that. Go to the professionals through the utility if you want to, but it's the same party. So that's my advice.
But
And then whatever
she's
they recommend.
She's asking the difference between utility versus the private contractors.
They're the same.
And they're the same, aren't they?
Yes, for the extensive type audit, they're the same.
Any other comments anybody wants to make or questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, I
We'll
have something to say.
Yeah, talk about what you're going to do, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Betsy, for sparking the interest of our 100+ registrants, and thank you to my wonderful wife for handling questions. Closing plug for our March 21st Building Electrification webinar. We have Ernie Dorflinger, who will do a greatly motivating talk on necessity of electrification. So we'll have a lot more on that. And we're looking forward to March 21st, 7 p.m. And you'll see the announcements later. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in 1 month.
Thank you, Steve and Pat. Bye.
Thank you.